There exists an uncomfortable truth that few men have the courage to face. Women possess an ancient intuition capable of detecting in seconds the energy of a man who has allowed himself to be drained by countless meaningless experiences. It is as if they have an internal radar that immediately recognizes who has wasted their life force on superficial encounters, in a desperate search for validation, in failed attempts to fill an existential void through someone else's body. Have you ever wondered why some women distance themselves from you without explanation? Why the deep connection you seek always slips through your fingers like sand? The answer may lie deeper than you can imagine in the quality of the energy you carry within yourself. Napoleon Hill, the great student of the human mind and the secrets of success, discovered something that would revolutionize our understanding of masculine power. Sexual energy is not merely a biological impulse, but the most potent force in the human universe. When a man truly understands this energy and learns to transmute it, he becomes magnetically irresistible. But when he wastes it, when he allows it to be siphoned off by experiences that do not nourish his soul, something fundamental breaks within him. And women, by nature intuitive beings, feel that immediately. Imagine an ancient warrior. Before every battle, he purified his body, mind, and soul. He knew that his strength did not come solely from his muscles, but from a concentrated, refined inner energy focused on a higher purpose. Now imagine that same warrior squandering his life force on momentary pleasures, scattering his energy in 1,000 directions, and allowing others to tap into his vitality. What kind of warrior would he be? What presence would he exude? Modern society has taught us to believe that masculinity is measured by the number of sexual conquests, by the accumulation of experiences, by the ability to seduce and consume. But that is a devastating lie that has destroyed entire generations of men. True masculinity is not found in quantity, but in the quality of the energy you preserve and direct. A man who recklessly indulges in every available sexual experience displays no strength. He displays weakness, a lack of discernment, an absence of purpose. Women, especially those with a high degree of emotional and spiritual refinement, have a sensitive faculty that enables them to feel the difference between a man who owns his energy and a man who is possessed by it. They sense when a man bears the energetic imprint of multiple women, when his aura is fragmented, when his life force has been dispersed across encounters that have not elevated his spirit. As if each random sexual encounter leaves an energetic scar, a stain on the natural clarity of the male soul. Yet here lies the deepest paradox of human existence. The same energy that can destroy a man can also elevate him to the highest peaks of fulfillment. Sexual energy, when understood in its purest essence, is the creative force of the universe expressed through the human form. It is the sacred fire that under pressure can forge diamonds or reduce everything to ash in the uncontrollable combustion of desire. Napoleon Hill found that the most successful men in history shared one common trait. They had mastered the art of sexual transmutation. It was not about suppression or denial, but about a refined inner alchemy in which the primitive impulse is purified and directed toward noble ends. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln, all these giants of human achievement intuitively understood that their sexual energy was their most valuable asset, not to be wasted on fleeting pleasures, but to be concentrated on grand visions. When a man learns to conserve and transmute his sexual energy, something magical happens. His presence becomes magnetic. His mind becomes clearer and more focused. His leadership abilities multiply. His intuition sharpens, his creativity explodes. He develops what the ancients called personal magnetism, an indefinable yet unmistakable quality that attracts opportunities, people, and favorable circumstances. But the converse is also true. When a man recklessly disperses his sexual energy, he loses not only physical vitality, he loses something far more precious, his energetic integrity. Each time he surrenders to a sexual experience driven by lack, by the desire for validation, or by addiction to novelty, he fragments his being a little more. Women feel that fragmentation because they themselves are natural guardians of sacred sexual energy. There is a vast difference between a man who makes love with purpose and awareness, and a man who uses sex as an escape, a medication, or a means of validation. The first elevates both partners during the experience. The second sucks the life out and is sucked dry in return, leaving trails of emptiness and dissatisfaction. The most evolved women can distinguish these two energies with almost supernatural precision. Think of the nature of fire. When bound and focused, it can feed whole civilizations, forge noble metals, illuminate darkness. But when uncontrolled, that same fire can destroy entire forests, reduce cities to ashes, consume everything in its path. Male sexual energy operates on the same principle. When governed by conscious discipline, it becomes an immeasurable creative force. When left uncontrolled, it becomes a destructive power that undermines our very foundation. The journey of sexual transmutation is not for the faint of heart. It requires a man to confront his deepest demons, his most ingrained insecurities, his most primitive patterns. It demands that he stare directly into the abyss of his own desire and consciously choose how to channel it. Many men prefer to remain slaves to their impulses because freedom demands responsibility, and responsibility demands emotional maturity. But for those brave enough to embark on this journey, the rewards are extraordinary. When a man begins conscious chastity, not neurotic repression, but intelligent redirection of his sexual energy, he discovers reservoirs of power he never knew existed. His capacity for concentration multiplies. His physical endurance increases dramatically, his presence becomes commanding, his intuition becomes almost prophetic. And women feel this transformation immediately. They notice when a man has stopped collecting experiences and has begun creating realities. They recognize when a man has ceased seeking validation through conquest and has started radiating completeness through his mere presence. That energetic shift is so powerful that it can be felt meters away. Modern culture constantly bombards us with messages that encourage sexual dispersion, ubiquitous pornography, dating apps that turn relationships into commodities, a live life to the fullest mentality that is in fact a cover for addiction to instant gratification. But truly powerful men always swim against that current. They understand that in a world of superficial abundance, conscious scarcity is true wealth. If you wonder why your interactions with women don't yield the results you want, if you wonder why there seems to be an invisible barrier between you and deep connections, then it may be time to honestly examine how you manage your sexual energy. Are you a conscious guardian of this sacred force, or do you let it be drained by every stimulus available? The answer to that question will determine not only the quality of your relationships, but the quality of your entire existence. For sexual energy, when properly transmuted, becomes the fuel for every aspect of life: professional success, artistic creativity, natural leadership, personal magnetism, mental clarity, and spiritual fulfillment. Here at this very moment, as these words resonate in your consciousness, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue believing that masculinity is measured by the number of experiences you have, or you can awaken to the deeper truth that true masculinity is measured by the quality of the energy you can serve and direct. And if these reflections stir something deep in your soul, if you feel there is much more to discover about this fundamental theme of male existence, then you must subscribe to this channel and activate the bell. For what you have just heard is only the tip of the iceberg of a transformation that can completely change your life. In upcoming videos, we will dive even deeper into the practical secrets of sexual transmutation, into the specific techniques masters have used to channel this energy, into the concrete changes you can implement today to start radiating the natural magnetism that every woman of value recognizes and respects. Do not let this opportunity slip away. Your most powerful version awaits on the other side of this decision. The transformation we speak of does not happen overnight. It is an alchemical process that demands patience, discipline, and above all, a profound understanding of the mechanisms by which sexual energy operates in our psyche. When Napoleon Hill wrote about sexual transmutation, he was not speaking of abstract theory. He revealed practical secrets he had observed in the most powerful men of his era. The first step on this journey is the ruthless acknowledgement of truth. How often have you used sex as an escape from reality? How often have you sought validation through sexual conquest? How often have you allowed addiction to instant gratification to drain your life force and scatter your focus? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they are necessary. For only through complete honesty with oneself can a man begin to reclaim his energetic integrity. Sexual energy in its purest essence is creative energy. It is the same force that moves the planets in their orbits, that makes plants grow toward the sun, that inspires artists to create masterpieces and entrepreneurs to build empires. When this energy is squandered on meaningless sexual activities, we lose not only physical vitality, we lose access to our own genius. Imagine a mighty river. When its waters are channeled by a dam, it can generate enough electricity to power entire cities, but when that same water spreads in multiple directions, it becomes a stagnant swamp. Male sexual energy operates on the same principle. When concentrated and directed, it becomes a personal powerhouse. When dispersed, it becomes a source of weakness and confusion. The most evolved women have a natural ability that allows them to detect the difference between these two energies. They intuitively recognize when a man operates from a place of energetic integrity and when he acts from fragmentation. This ability is not learned. It is instinctive, developed over millions of years of evolution as a survival and selection mechanism. A woman of high emotional caliber seeks a man who can elevate her, inspire her, protect her, and lead her wisely. She cannot do that if he himself is fragmented, if his energy is wasted, if he has no control over his own impulses. That is why she unconsciously distances herself from men whose sexual energy has been compromised by superficial experiences. The practice of sexual transmutation begins with the conscious decision to no longer use sexual energy as an outlet or validation mechanism. This does not mean eternal celibacy. It means developing discernment about when, how, and with whom you share that sacred energy. It means learning to distinguish between genuine desire and neurotic compulsion. When a man begins consciously saving his sexual energy, remarkable changes occur. First, he notices a significant increase in his physical energy. What was once squandered in frequent ejaculations is now recycled by the body, boosting his vitality, endurance, and life force. But that is only the beginning. On a mental level, conserving sexual energy delivers astonishing clarity of mind. The mind becomes more focused, more creative, better able to sustain prolonged concentration. Problems that once seemed unsolvable find elegant solutions. Deep insights arise spontaneously. The capacity for decision-making becomes more refined and precise. On an emotional level, the man who practices sexual transmutation develops remarkable stability and equanimity. He reacts less to external stimuli, depends less on others' approval, and remains more centered in his own values and goals. His self-confidence no longer hinges on sexual conquests or external validation. It springs naturally from his own inner integrity. But perhaps the most impressive transformation occurs on an energetic level. The man who preserves and transmutes his sexual energy develops what can only be described as personal magnetism. His presence commands attention without being authoritarian. His voice carries natural authority. His gaze radiates an intensity that is at once calm and powerful. People, especially women, inevitably feel drawn to his energy. This magnetism cannot be feigned or manufactured. It is the direct result of true inner alchemy, in which the most primitive energy of the man is refined and elevated to higher frequencies. It is as if he has access to premium fuel that most men don't even know exists. Women feel this difference immediately because they themselves are highly energetic beings. They live much closer to their feelings and intuitions than men. When they meet a man who radiates this transmuted energy, they feel an attraction that goes beyond the physical or emotional. They feel a spiritual rallying, a recognition that they are in the presence of someone who has reached a higher level of human evolution. The journey of sexual transmutation is not without challenges. There will be moments of intense temptation when all social conditioning and biological impulses conspire to drag you back into old patterns. There will be moments of doubt when you question whether it's worth resisting immediate pleasures for long-term rewards. There will be moments of loneliness when conscious abstinence feels like an unnecessary punishment. But it is precisely in those moments that true transformation occurs. Each time you consciously choose not to disperse your energy, each time you direct the sexual impulse toward creative or productive activities, each time you resist the urge to seek validation through sexual conquest, you strengthen your willpower and refine your energy. The process can be compared to training an Olympic athlete. At first, every exercise is a heroic effort. Every repetition is a struggle against resistance, but over time what once seemed impossible becomes natural. The body adapts, the mind grows stronger, and what began as discipline transforms into strength. The ancient masters understood these principles intuitively. They knew that sexual energy was the fuel for spiritual awakening, creative genius, and worldly power. That is why they developed extensive systems of practices to preserve, refine, and direct this energy, not out of morality or repression, but out of spiritual pragmatism. In the modern world, few men understand these principles. Most squander their most precious energy on meaningless pursuits and then wonder why they feel constantly exhausted, confused, and adrift. They fail to realize that they are literally ejaculating their life force, their creativity, their personal magnetism. But when a man awakens to this realization and chooses to follow the path of conscious transmutation, he stands out dramatically from the crowd. He becomes like a bright flash in a sea of weak candles, and women, especially those with the greatest spiritual and emotional evolution, are inevitably drawn to that light. The energy of a man who masters his sexual power is unmistakable. He walks with serene self-assurance that needs no proof. He speaks with natural authority that springs from his core, not from a need to impress. He looks with a calm intensity that sees through superficiality straight to the essence of things. He touches with a presence that can heal emotional wounds through pure sincerity. That is the energy every truly evolved woman seeks in a partner, not the desperate energy of a compulsive conqueror, not the fragmented energy of an experienced collector, not the dependent energy of a validation addict, but the integrated, focused, and powerful energy of a man who has mastered his own inner realm. Sexual transmutation is ultimately an act of self-love. It is the decision to treat your energy as the sacred treasure it truly is, instead of squander it carelessly. It is the choice to become a conscious creator of your own reality, instead of an unconscious victim of your own impulses. When you make that choice, when you decide to become the conscious guardian of your sexual energy, you transform not only your sex life, you transform your entire existence. You become the kind of man who commands respect, attracts opportunities, naturally leads, and creates real value in the world. And women feel that transformation immediately. They notice when a man has stopped consuming energy and has begun generating flow. They recognize when a man has ceased seeking completeness in another and has started radiating completeness from within himself. That shift is so fundamental that it changes the entire dynamic of how he relates to the world. Now you understand why some women seemingly inexplicably withdraw from certain relationships. It is not prejudice or superficiality, it is survival instinct. They intuitively sense when a man's energy has been compromised by superficial experiences, when his integrity has been fragmented by compulsive pleasure, when his life force has drained away through lack of discernment. But now you also understand the path to becoming the kind of man these same women will naturally seek out, not through seduction techniques or manipulative strategies, but through the fundamental transformation of your own energy, through the courageous decision not to waste your most precious fuel and to begin purifying it into pure power. This is your golden opportunity. While other men continue dissipating in meaningless pursuits, you can choose the path of conscious transmutation. You can decide to become the guardian of your life force, the alchemist of your own energy, the creator of your own reality. The man who emerges from this transformation is not only irresistible to women, he is irresistible to life itself. Opportunities present themselves spontaneously, resources manifest as needed, influential people are naturally drawn to his orbit. The universe conspires with those who have learned to operate from a place of energetic integrity. This is the promise of sexual transmutation, not just better relationships, but a whole life elevated to higher frequencies, not just female attraction, but universal magnetism, not just sexual pleasure, but existential ecstasy. Are you ready to claim your power? Are you willing to become the man you were always meant to be? The journey begins with a single step, the conscious decision not to waste your most precious energy any longer, and to begin transmuting it into greatness. The sacred fire of creation burns within you, waiting for your permission to transform from destroyer to creator, from weakness to strength, from fragmentation to wholeness. Women are waiting. The universe is waiting. Your most powerful version is waiting. The only question that remains is, will you answer the call?